Transmigrated into the true heiress of a tragic novel, the system demands I collect regret points from everyone, but the moment I open my eyes, my own brother forces me to act like a dog. I immediately thrust a sharp weapon into his throat. The system suddenly erupts with a piercing alarm. Host, if the person is dead, how are you going to collect regret points? As soon as the words were spoken, the regret points skyrocketed. I scoffed lightly. What's the matter? Who said you have to kill the female lead to collect regret points? It's just a story about death, so what does it matter who dies? Stupid girl, are you blind? The woman's shrill voice pierced my eardrums painfully. Kneeling on the ground, I looked up at her dizzily, and a sharp, unkind face abruptly filled my vision. She crouched beside me, tugging on my ear while habitually raising her hand. I reached out to block it. She froze for a moment, her eyes wide with surprise, and her mouth fell open. You dare to defy me? I remained silent, staring intently at her. She said angrily, Su Tong, I'll beat you to death. Su Tong, is that the original owner's name? What did she do wrong? Why is she being bullied by this person? With the woman's familiar shouting, large chunks of the plot flooded into her mind, causing an intense headache. It turned out that the person before her was Cheng Yen, the Su family's nanny. In the book, the female lead Su Tong is the real daughter who was swapped at birth. From a young age, she suffered from oppression and abuse, with not a single patch of unblemished skin on her body. Even after the truth came to light and Su Tong was recognized by her own family, Cheng Yen refused to let go of the original host, especially in front of her own daughter, Su Enan. Taking advantage of the original host's lack of importance in the family, she subjected her to constant beatings and scoldings. Today is no exception. I was slightly taken aback, not quite understanding this kind of plot. I entered this book to collect the regret values of all the characters, but the female lead is so stifled, living a life worse than a beggar on the street. What is there for the enemy to regret? What exactly is there to regret? Su Tong, let go, you little bastard. Cheng Yen tried to break free from the grip. I pressed my fingertips hard, gripping her arm tightly. Shut up, you're so noisy. With that, I backhanded her across the face. Her cheek quickly reddened and swelled as she stared at me in shock. Taking advantage of the gap, I leaned on the kitchen cabinet and struggled to stand up. Perhaps because I had been kneeling for too long, my knees ached terribly. Cheng Yen snapped back to reality and exclaimed in shock, How dare you stand up? If the young master finds out, he will surely kill you. I rub my knees, and in my daze, a sentence echoes in my ears. Su Tong, from now on, you can only be a dog, understand? It seems to have been said by the original owner's own brother, all because of that one sentence. Su Tong knelt for a full year, usually moving around by crawling on the ground. Cheng Yen covered her face, seething with resentment as she said, You just wait, you wretched girl. I'm going to tell the young master right now and see how he punishes you. Her voice grew increasingly shrill and piercing. It sounds awful. I instinctively grabbed her wrist. I decided to adopt the simplest and most direct method to collect regret points. Cheng Yen sneered disdainfully. Scared now? Better give it to me. Before she could finish speaking, I suddenly pressed forward, tightly covering her mouth, then grabbed a knife and plunged it straight into her chest. Her eyes widened abruptly as she struggled desperately. MMPH. I paid no heed, thrusting the knife in and out, shredding her lungs to pieces in mere seconds. My face was reflected in Cheng Yan's gradually fading pupils, deathly still and detached, numb and frenzied. A sudden, startled mechanical voice echoed in my mind, Host, you've transmigrated into a dead man's literature. Stop what you're doing right now. It seemed to be trying to tell me something, but I had no time to pay it any mind. Footsteps sounded outside the kitchen. From the sound of it, there was more than one person. I calmly looked around and quickly stuffed Cheng Yen, who was barely clinging to life, into the large refrigerator. Before I closed the door, she wore an expression I had never seen before, reaching out with her last breath, her dim eyes filled with shock and pleading. Tong Tong. Unfortunately, with a snap, the door closed. The progress bar for collecting regret points suddenly grew by a large margin. Task progress, 15%. The system froze, thinking there was a bug, and only reminded me not to act rashly again. I agreed. Who allowed you to stand up? A man's questioning voice sounded from behind. His tone carried a suppressed anger. It was the original owner's biological brother. Su Feng, little sister, you're being disobedient again. Su Feng's attention was entirely on me, so he didn't notice the pool of blood on the ground. I turned around. The moment I saw his face, fragments of the plot flooded my mind once again. On the day Su Tong returned home, Su Feng had once stood in front of her, shielding the teary-eyed Su Anan behind him, and scolded, "I only have Anan as my sister, understand, don't even think about replacing her." Su Tong had long been worn down into a weak and incapable character. Faced with her own brother's warning, she could only nod obediently, but yielding did not bring peace. It only brought Su Feng's escalating demands, especially in the past year. He didn't even allow Su Tong to walk at home, forcing her to act like a dog in front of everyone. Cheng Yan also relied on him to stay in this family and continue to scold and beat Su Tong. I took a deep breath. The thrill of killing gradually faded, and a dull ache began to throb in my lower back. I could feel it. A kidney was missing there. I calmly covered the bloodstains on the ground. Su Feng slowly approached, one hand pressing down on my shoulder, the other holding a butterfly knife. "Speak up, little sister. Who gave you permission to stand up?" He always used to scare the original host like this. "Brother, is Tong Tong being disobedient again?" Su Anan playfully poked her head out, grinning as she said, "Today is my engagement party with Brother Mingchen. Sister Tong Tong, you wouldn't be thinking of causing trouble, would you?" Just kidding. I believe Sister Tong Tong wouldn't do such a thing. "Brother, please don't lock her up there again." There she mentioned was the nightclub owned by Shin Mingchen, the original host's fiancé. 3 years ago, Su Anan framed Su Tong for hiring someone to defile her, which led to the original host being imprisoned. It was during that time that this kidney was lost. After being released from prison, she teamed up with her childhood friends to trick Su Tong into incurring a massive debt, playing with the original owner like a dog. Upon learning of this, Su Feng harshly blamed Su Tong for her stubbornness and threw her into Shin Mingchen's nightclub. That day, he chuckled softly and said, "Behave, and I'll take you home." The original owner had been tormented for half a year. Upon returning to the Su family, she would rather crawl on the ground than be locked up again. I know, she was truly terrified, but the more she feared, the more Su Anan used this to frighten her, without the slightest restraint. "Don't worry, Anan." Su Feng, reminded by Su Anan, suddenly remembered this detail and smirked wickedly. "Brother knows what he's doing, I won't kill him." The smile on his lips deepened as he hoisted me over his shoulder. Su Anan's words were meant to stop me, but her eyes wandered over me as if watching a show. The hall was filled with many people. I was glad I had held back from taking action just now. They had all come early to prepare for tonight's engagement banquet. It suddenly occurred to me. The original host was driven mad tonight and fell to her death at Shin Mingchen and Su Anan's engagement banquet, and after her death, all those who had bullied her suddenly remembered her goodness, repenting day and night, tormenting Su Anan with tears of remorse to atone for their sins. But by then, Su Tong had long since been reduced to ashes. I couldn't help but feel shocked. So in the original plot, the female lead had to rely on suicide to make them regret it. What a ridiculous logic. The system can finally explain it properly. This is the literature of the dead. All the suffering in the early stages is for the cathartic feeling of the whole world regretting it later. The key point of the literature of the dead is crying. I smacked my lips. What's all this talk about suffering or not suffering? Isn't it just about making others regret it? This, I'm very good at. Su Feng swaggered past the crowd. Su's parents gave me a cold glance before turning their eyes away. They were long accustomed to it. It was hardly surprising. After all, when I first returned home, they had warned me, although Anan is not our biological child, 20 years of affection make her more than our own. Allowing you to come back is already our generosity. You'd better watch your step. So I held no expectations of them. I just quietly sighed to myself, thinking there really were quite a few people who needed to be dealt with. It was Shin Mingchen who unconsciously furrowed his brows and stood up. "Where are you taking her?" Su Feng snorted lightly. "The usual place, of course." Shin Mingchen's expression shifted slightly, but he still spoke coldly. "I'll see you out." He is the male lead of this book, although he never directly participated in bullying Su Tong, but it was he who personally arranged for the original owner to be sent to prison. The private room used to humiliate Su Tong was also provided by his own hand. Su Anan genuinely liked him, so did Su Tong. My gaze swept over him, not lingering for long. Whether direct or indirect, they all have to die. Su Anan bit her lip, giving her childhood friends a look. They understood immediately and were ready to follow. "Let's have some fun." Su Feng quickly walked out the door and threw me into the car. Without a shred of mercy, the car started, and in no time, it came to a steady stop by the roadside. He led me familiarly through the corridor to the top-floor private room, and amid the clamor, he pushed me inside. Before I could steady myself, someone kicked me again. I lunged forward onto the glass coffee table, knocking over several wine bottles that shattered on the floor. Shards of glass embedded in my palms, and blood gushed out. "Hey, Su Tong." The woman walked toward me in high heels, lifted her foot, and stomped hard on my bloodied hand. The pain made me break out in a cold sweat. She crouched down, grabbed my face, and forced me to look her in the eyes. "How did I teach you back then? Have you forgotten so quickly? I know this person. His name is Zhou Ning, a member of Su Anan's childhood circle, and one of the people who framed the original host. My sister has a poor memory. Why don't you teach her again?" Su Feng licked his lips and signaled to Zhou Ning. Zhou Ning curled the corner of his mouth, opened the paint box beside him, and viciously jabbed the paintbrush into my face. The people around also gleefully poured wine over my head. They were exceptionally skilled at humiliating me. Shen Mingchen sat alone on the sofa, hidden in the flickering light, legs crossed, his face dark and gloomy, yet he remained silent throughout, showing not the slightest intention to intervene. He had always been this way, always, as if by not taking action, everything would remain unrelated to him. My hair was damp and clinging to my face. The paint mixed with alcohol seeped into my eyes, stinging so much that I squinted slightly. "Bitch, don't move." Zhou Ning immediately slapped me across the face. Before long, she finally completed her masterpiece, a rather unsightly clown makeup. "This suits you much better." She laughed with unrestrained glee. "What does it matter if she's a real sister? If she can't compare to a fake one, it's all for nothing, don't you think, miss?" I looked at her expressionlessly. "What's real or fake? Those about to be buried are all considered dead." Su Feng sat upright on the sofa and suddenly tossed a handful of cash into the air. "Sister, you still owe money, don't you?" "I don't speak." He looks at me mockingly, habitually playing with the butterfly knife in his hand. "Crawl and pick it up. It's all yours." I gazed quietly. Su Feng also watched my reaction with great interest. After a long while, I lowered my gaze and took a deep breath, enduring the pain in my palm. I silently knelt on the ground and bowed down, but because I was missing a kidney, my movements were unusually slow, and if I moved too much, a sharp pain would shoot through my lower back, so I could only move slowly, picking up the money on the ground bit by bit. Seeing this, the people in the private room burst into unrestrained laughter. Su Feng couldn't help but record a video and send it to Su Anan. "Anan, I wish you a happy engagement." I didn't care at all. Calmly scanning the private room, there weren't many people. 4 men and 1 woman. Of the 2 sitting with Su Feng, one was lying face down on the sofa. I remember he couldn't hold his liquor well, just a few cups and he couldn't take it anymore. Shen Mingchen, on the other hand, kept his distance from the crowd. I withdrew my gaze, my mind already made up. My palm was almost numb with pain, but I forced myself to endure it, crawling with great difficulty towards Su Feng. Su Feng was wearing leather shoes, his foot pressing down on the last banknote. "Sister," he spoke up, aiming the camera at me, his smile malicious. "Bark like a dog for me." I looked up, my expression calm. The people in the private room burst into laughter. Only Shen Mingchen's face changed. "Be good, call me one." Su Feng raised an eyebrow and moved the phone even closer. After a moment of silence, I spoke calmly. "Woof, woof, woof." The tone carried not a hint of emotion. Su Feng was taken aback for a moment, then let out a cold laugh, turning his gaze toward Shen Mingchen in the distance. "President Shen, how would you describe it in one word?" Under the dim light, Shen Mingchen's expression grew even more sinister. After a long while, he finally spoke with disgust. Lowly, I avoided his gaze, pretending not to have heard, and continued crawling towards Su Feng. A piercing pain shot through the palm of my hand. With each crawl, another streak of blood stained the floor. Fortunately, the darkness of the private room kept anyone from noticing. Seeing me move closer, Su Feng only pressed the banknote more firmly under his foot. I reached out and tugged twice, but couldn't pull it free, so I looked up at him. He clearly had no intention of letting me off. He raised an eyebrow and said with indifference, "Sister, you picked it up well. Brother will reward you with a cup of wine, but I'm missing a kidney, so I can't drink." Just as I was about to refuse, he suddenly raised his wine glass and said, "Open your mouth." Then, before I could react, he poured all the wine from the cup onto my face. The liquid slid into my nostrils, making me cough uncontrollably. Does it taste good? Su Feng raised his foot and stepped on my shoulder, trying to admire my embarrassed expression, but I didn't care at all, leisurely picking up the last banknote. His expression changed instantly. You've dirted my shoes. Su Feng withdrew his foot and viciously pressed the blade against my neck. It seemed that in the next second, he would slit my throat. Just at that moment, Shen Mingchen shouted, "Stop!" He was somewhat annoyed. I didn't even glance, just stared fixedly at those shiny leather shoes. Su Feng's gaze paused. He had long heard Su Anan's complaints, something about Shen Mingchen seeming to have changed his heart, but in his eyes, the original owner wasn't even worth a single strand of Su Anan's hair. Thus, he was rather displeased. Shen Mingchen paused, regaining his composure. "Su Tong, clean it up." Su Feng frowned, glaring at him with displeasure, yet, constrained by his background, he had no choice but to set down the knife and spat a mouthful of saliva at the leather shoes. Shen Mingchen turned his face away, refusing to look any longer. The phone rang abruptly. He glanced over it hastily and instructed, "Have fun with it." With that, he walked out. It was Su Anan who couldn't wait to find him. I quickly called out, "Shen Mingchen." He stiffened but didn't respond, walking straight out of the private room. Damn it, I grit my teeth. One got away. Su Feng sneered, "Sister, don't delude yourself. You're not worthy. In this house, you only have the right to kneel, understand?" I gave a faint smile and spoke a sentence in an extremely soft voice. "What did you say?" Su Feng didn't hear clearly, so he leaned down and brought his ear close to me. I said, "Sorry, I don't understand." Before the words had even finished, I suddenly stood up, pressed down the glass shard hidden in my palm, and stabbed it fiercely into his neck. Su Feng froze for a moment. The knife in his hand fell to the floor. He reflexively covered the wound, staggering backward in a daze. But it was already too late. I moved with lightning speed, using all my strength to sever his artery. Blood instantly gushed out, splattering across my face. The person beside him was dumbstruck. Just 1 second, I quickly picked up the knife and lunged forward, stabbing the man over a dozen times in a frenzy. In the room, only these two posed the greatest threat to me. That's why I decided to play along, approaching them step by step while pretending to be the prey. I looked down at my trembling right hand. To hide the glass shard, I drove it deep into the palm of my hand. Now the bone was exposed, the flesh torn and mangled. The system let out another sharp, piercing shriek. "Host, if the person dies, how are you going to collect regret points?" No sooner had the words left my mouth than the regret value suddenly skyrocketed. Task progress, 30%. The system paused for a moment, then asked in confusion, "Wait, is that right?" I tilted my head and scoffed lightly. "What's wrong? Who said you have to kill the female lead to collect regret points? It's just a dead person's story. Who cares who dies?" The system fell silent. I turned to look at Su Feng. His eyes were wide open, filled with shock, as he lay on the ground convulsing, like a live fish on a chopping board. "Brother, you wouldn't dare to kill someone, would you?" My tone was exceptionally calm. "I dare." Su Feng's eyes deepened with fear. The mission progress rose accordingly, 33%, 34%, 35%. "Ah!" Zhou Ning screamed out loud, "Help, help me." She turned around to run, but no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't open the door. Holding the knife, I slowly stood up and waved the VIP card in my hand at her. Shen Mingchen's private room could only be opened with a card, but now, the card is in my hand. Zhou Ning's face was deathly pale, frantic, scrambling and crawling to hide under the table. It was useless. I could kill her without lifting a finger, after slitting her throat. I dragged my broken body back to Su Feng. He clutched his neck, his face filled with terror, unable to utter a word. I turned to him, grabbing the drunk man's hair in one swift motion. Smiling, I said, "Brother, look." With those words, I raised the knife and plunged it fiercely into the drunk man's neck. The man jolted awake, his eyes wide and round, blood spurting out like a fountain, splashing onto Su Feng's face. Su Feng was so terrified that his pupils dilated again and again. The regret value soared to an unprecedented height. I grabbed his head and asked, "Dear brother, do you regret it?" His lips trembled slightly, tears mingled with bloodstains as they fell, yet not a single sound could escape his throat. But I think he must have regretted it deeply, just like Cheng Yan in the refrigerator. A moment later, the task progress stopped at 50%, unmoving, just like Su Feng's halted breath. "See, who says making others regret has to be through taking one's own life?" After killing them, I gasped for breath a few times, exhausted, and slumped down among the pile of corpses. The system cautiously asked, Host, what should I call you? My surname is Chin, Sister Chin. What are you going to do next? I blinked and looked up at the ceiling. According to the plot, attend the engagement banquet. The system couldn't help but feel puzzled. You want to follow the plot, of course. I smiled and said, word by word, after all, in a story about the dead. Everyone should be dead. After a short rest, I dragged my half-numb body to wash up briefly, changed into a clean set of clothes, and hurried home. My parents were complaining about Cheng Yan. Whenever something happens, she's nowhere to be found. We shouldn't have been soft-hearted and let her stay in the first place. After all, she is Anan's biological mother. Would you really want to make our daughter sad? If she hears this later, she'll be upset again. Su's father fell silent. Su Anan descended the stairs arm in arm with Shen Mingchen. Dad, Mom, who are you saying is having a hard time? Is it Tong Tong? I know I took Mingchen away from you. If you're worried about her, I can give Mingchen back to Tong Tong. After all, I don't really belong here anyway. She bit her lip lightly, her eyes reddening, and unconsciously tightened her grip on Shen Mingchen's arm, not showing the slightest intention of actually giving him back to me. But my parents quickly reassured her, don't talk nonsense. You are our real daughter. Be good, Anan. The engagement banquet is about to start. If you cry and ruin your makeup, you won't look pretty anymore. It was at that moment that I pushed the door open and walked in. My parents were both awkward and surprised to see me. Why are you back? Where's your brother? Su Anan couldn't help but furrow her brows. Logically speaking, Su Feng shouldn't have let me go home at this time. Could it be? Startled by her own bold thought, she shook her head vigorously, forcefully suppressing the ominous premonition in her heart. A glimmer flickered in Shen Mingchen's eyes as he instinctively took a step forward, only to be held back by Su Anan. He paused, halting his steps, his gaze settling on me. My brother. I let out a soft, dismissive hum. Where would I have a brother? Isn't that Su Anan's brother? What does it have to do with me? Father Su scolded in a low voice. Outrageous. What right do you have to criticize us? Don't forget what you've done. At the mention of this, Shen Mingchen's eyes instantly turned cold. In his heart, it was a fact that the original owner had tried to find someone to defile Su Anan. He could not accept that he would fall in love with such a malicious woman. Of course, I, too, could not accept that the original owner would fall in love with such a foolish man, so I had long since planned Shen Mingchen's death in my mind. Seeing that I remained silent, Mother Su sighed, looking at me coldly. Forget it, Su Tong, go pour me a glass of juice. With Cheng Yan not around, I was the servant, but she seemed to have forgotten. I am her biological daughter. I'll have a cup too, thanks, Tong Tong. Su Anan affectionately hugged Shen Mingchen, looking smug. Remember to add ice. She emphasized the words, add ice, heavily. That was because once, when Su Tong simply forgot to add ice to her drink, she viciously stuffed a large amount of ice cubes into Su Tong's mouth, forcing her to hold them all night. Su Anan always bullied the original host like this, but no one knew, so she particularly enjoyed subtly showing off in public, and then watching the original host's fearful expression up close. Such a low-level, twisted pleasure. I chuckled lightly and walked into the kitchen without a care. The first thing I did was pick up a knife. After hiding it away, I followed their instructions and poured 2 glasses of juice. Oh, and add ice. Keeping the request in mind, I opened the refrigerator. Cheng Yan's frozen, deathly pale corpse suddenly came into view. Her mouth was wide open. She must have been desperately calling for help. Unfortunately, the refrigerator was too well soundproofed. I expressionlessly pushed her hand aside, took a few ice cubes that were pressed under the corpse, and put them into the juice, gently stirred it well, acting as if nothing was wrong. He handed it to the 2 of them. They were completely unsuspecting and took a few sips. I couldn't help but break into a smile, just like Su Anan, uncomfortable under my gaze. She mustered the courage to provoke me. Tong Tong is so obedient. It seems my teachings haven't been in vain. Shen Mingchen suddenly remembered my pitiful appearance. His heart trembled slightly, finding it hard to listen any further, and he made an excuse. We should head to the hotel now. Su Anan gave him a coquettish kiss, her gaze sweeping past me in the corner of her eye. Seeing that I remained completely unfazed, she couldn't help but feel bored, pouted, and strode away. As soon as the 2 of them left, Su's mother received a phone call. It was the news of Su Feng's death. She heard the content clearly, her face gradually turning pale. Who died? The other person repeated it again. In a daze, she turned off her phone, trembling as she turned to look at me, fearfully saying, Su Tong, is your brother dead? Really? Is it true? It's true, of course, and not just him. Cheng Yen is in the fridge too. I said it very softly, light as their worthless lives. Father Su suddenly widened his eyes in disbelief and said, What did you say? Before the words had even finished, I drew the knife tucked at my waist and cleanly slit his throat. Blood splattered into Su Mu's eyes. She froze in place, her movements stiff as she touched her own face. Only when the warm liquid covered her fingers did she snap back to reality and let out a scream. Ah, my figure was reflected in her widened pupils. Her legs gave way, and she collapsed to the ground. Tong Tong, Tong Tong, what are you doing? We're your parents. They're not blood related. A faint smile played at the corner of my lips. Didn't you say that yourself? She was speechless. Trembling like a leaf, and unconsciously stepped back, regret surged once again. Mission progress. 55%, am I right, stepdad? I held Mr. Su's head steady, staring into his gradually fading pupils. This time, I didn't strike to kill instantly, mainly because I was afraid he would die too quickly, without enough time for regret. Sure enough, upon hearing my voice, a flicker of focus returned to his gaze. The eyes were complex, the mission progress slowly increased amidst his violent gasps. Only when it reached 65% did I release him with satisfaction. I let his cooling corpse slide to the ground. Su's mother finally broke down in tears. Tong Tong, Mom was wrong. I was really wrong. Please, let me go. I beg you. Of course, I believe she has repented, but I have no intention of letting her go. If apologies were useful, what would we need the police for? I said it before. Death literature should be all about the dead. No one can be an exception. After killing her, the value stopped at 70%. I calmly cleaned myself up, took a car to the engagement banquet, 2 more left, and I can go home. I'm not in a hurry at all, not at all. The engagement party was filled with guests. I stole a waiter's uniform, sneaked into the kitchen, and mixed drugs into the champagne. This medicine was originally prepared by Suanan for me. 3 years ago, she had intended to have someone ruin me, but she never expected that those thugs would mistake their target. That's how the false accusation came about. After administering the drug, I returned to the scene. Shen Mingchen was busy entertaining the guests. Suanan was also worried because she couldn't reach her parents or Su phone, so they didn't notice me. I had finished everything and intended to hide in a corner, but I accidentally bumped into someone. Sorry, I whispered an apology and turned to leave, yet that person grabbed my hand, examining me closely. Have I seen you somewhere before? He thought for a moment, finally recognized me, and couldn't help but sneer loudly. Miss Su, oh my, how could you come to your sister's engagement party dressed like this? After being imprisoned, Su Tong had long become a laughingstock in their circle. Over the years, I've endured no shortage of cold mockery and sarcasm. In the original storyline, when Su Tong stood on the rooftop, these people still insisted she was faking it, laughing and urging her to jump, but when Su Tong actually jumped, they began shifting blame among themselves, ultimately pinning all the guilt on Suanan, as if from beginning to end, Su Tong's death had nothing to do with me. Thinking of this, I clenched my teeth. What kind of young lady is she? She's clearly just a cleaning auntie. What kind of young lady wears such cheap clothes? You must have mistaken her for someone else. Is that so? Let me take another look. Well, if it isn't Su Tong, what's the matter? Couldn't handle being a young lady anymore, so you switched to being a waitress. Ha, ha, Miss Su sure has some interesting ideas. If you can't be a wealthy heiress, you might as well be a servant. At least you're still in the circle, right? A servant. You're giving her too much credit. I heard she was willing to crawl on the ground like a dog just to stay in the Su family, and the kind that barks, too. The people around burst into laughter. I raised my eyes, scanning them one by one. A surge of killing intent flickered in the depths of my gaze. Their attention was entirely fixed on me. Thus, no one noticed. 3 additional locks had inexplicably appeared on the tightly shut door. All added by me. Today, no one will leave this room alive. I said so. Hearing the commotion, Shen Mingchen's gaze shifted in this direction. When he saw me, his breath caught. He instinctively wanted to call out to me, but after catching sight of Suanan's aggrieved expression, he swallowed his words. He only hurriedly walked up to the stage, raising the wine glass. Thank you all for coming to an end and my engagement banquet. I'll drink first to show my respect. Thunderous applause. The Shen group dominates the business scene in Haishur. People to varying degrees, would give them face, so, the people surrounding me gradually dispersed, each raising a wine glass to take a light sip, showing their sincerity. Suanan lifted her head, smiling as she looked down at me. She raised her voice and emphasized, "Sister, why aren't you drinking?" With a single sentence, all attention was once again redirected back to me. Why I wouldn't drink, she knew perfectly well in her heart. But Suanan was determined to see me make a fool of myself. Shen Mingchen's mouth turned down at the corners as he shot her a displeased look. Mocking voices rose from the crowd once more. Exactly, shouldn't a sister be happy for her younger sister's engagement? Could it be that she's still dreaming of a toad trying to eat swan meat? Mr. Shen must be quite the charmer, with both sisters pining for him. Wow, the rumor that Su Tong has had a crush on Mr. Shen for years is actually true. Come on. She should take a good look at herself and see if she's even worthy. You're a perfect match. Miss Su is perfect for being a dog. Ha 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 ha. The sound of mockery once drowned me out. It's so noisy it's driving me crazy. Seeing this, Suanan was smug, covering her mouth and snickering. But at that moment, Shen Mingchen suddenly shouted, "Enough!" The noise stopped instantly. Everyone turned their gaze toward Shen Mingchen. His face was dark and gloomy. He shook off Suanan's hand and walked toward me angrily, but unexpectedly, just as he stepped down the stairs, Shen Mingchen stumbled. For some reason, his figure suddenly swayed violently. Before he could even reach me, he collapsed to the ground. I couldn't help but let out a soft sigh. To be honest, that medicine really worked fast. "Mingchen, brother," Suanan cried out, lifted her skirt, and quickly ran over to help him up. "What's wrong with you? What's wrong with him?" "Shouldn't you be the most familiar with that?" I scoffed lightly. Suanan looked up in confusion, yet, one by one, the people before me fell to the ground. Only I remained standing in the center, unwavering and unmoved. She couldn't help but gasp sharply, You drugged them." I gave an affirmative look. I lifted my coat and pulled out a knife from my waistband. This one I had sharpened on purpose. A cold glint flashed from the tip of the blade. She immediately panicked and demanded, "Su Tong, what are you going to do? I'm warning you, don't you dare do anything reckless, otherwise my parents and brother won't let you off." "Oh really?" I smiled. "Did you get in touch with them?" Her heart skipped a beat, and she swallowed hard. "What did you do to them? Tell me." I took out a handkerchief and elegantly wiped the blade. "Don't worry, you'll see them soon." With that, I crouched down, grabbed the fallen guests, and dealt with them one by one with a knife. My movements exceptionally swift, though they had lost their strength. They were not unconscious and still retained their senses. Seeing the situation take a sudden turn for the worse, someone tremblingly took out their phone, intending to call the police, but I found there was no signal at all. I pointed to the signal jammer by the wall and made a gesture for silence. Always so thorough, seeing that calling the police was not an option. Someone desperately propped themselves up and began crawling toward the door, but as soon as I looked up, I noticed that 3 extra locks had somehow appeared on the door handle. The people who realized what was happening stared at me in horror, only to see me wave the keys in my hand as if showing off. Then, right in front of them, without hesitation, I threw the key out the window. For a moment, cries of anguish filled the air. The regret value began to rise again. I cut my way through. My technique growing more and more proficient, Suanan was completely dumbfounded. Her beautiful eyes widened abruptly, unable to suppress the scream in her throat. "Mingchen, brother Mingchen, save me quickly. Su Tong has gone mad." Shen Mingchen's lips turned deathly pale. Lying on the ground, he struggled to sit up. "Su Tong," he called softly, his voice cold and sharp, having just finished harvesting the heads. I was wiping the sweat from my forehead, hearing the noise. I walked over and looked down at him. He looked up at me, his gaze filled with pain and struggle. After a long while, he finally regained some strength, composed himself, and said softly, "Su Tong, I know you love me, but you shouldn't have tried to humiliate Anan. Here's the deal, as long as you apologize to her, I can forgive you." His tone was as condescending as ever, as if he were the one holding the knife. I frowned, looking at him as if he were a fool. "You, forgive me, that's right." He nodded in confirmation. "As long as you apologize, the wedding will proceed as scheduled. However, my marriage partner will be you." Suanan also chimed in. Yes, sister, dear sister, I'll give brother Mingchen to you. Please don't kill me." I let out a chuckle. Who cares whether Shen Mingchen holds a wedding or not? All I care about is whether he'll have a funeral. Seeing me laugh, Shen Mingchen mistook it for a sign of interest and continued to persuade me, Su Tong, I will handle all of this, let's pretend the past never happened. I was taken aback for a moment, never happened, that's especially funny. When Su Anan was almost assaulted, why didn't he tell Su Tong's whole family to act like it never happened? I took Shen Mingchen's hand and placed it on my empty lower back, asking, Shen Mingchen, can your flippant "it never happened" make my kidney grow back? He froze completely. In the plot, he didn't know that Su Tong had lost a kidney, but when it comes to something like kidney removal, would his subordinates really dare to act against the original host without going through him? And Shen Mingchen, did he truly not know? Su Anan lowered her head guiltily and shifted backward. Shen Mingchen quickly composed himself, feigning calm as he said, this is no big deal. I'll find a way to give you another kidney, really, really, Tong Tong, give me some time, trust me, okay, the corners of my mouth lifted, my eyes sparkling, no need, you can give it to me now. Before he could grasp the meaning behind my words, I reversed my grip on the knife and plunged it deep into his lower back. He cried out in pain. Suddenly understanding my intention, he visibly panicked and said, Tong Tong, I know you're acting out of love for me, you're just too emotional. You need to calm down, mid-sentence, I drove the knife into his mouth. Shut up, listening to idiots talk is truly annoying. Shen Mingchen clutched his mouth in agony, blood and fragments of his tongue oozing from between his fingers. Su Anan was scared out of her wits, not even caring about Shen Mingchen anymore, and frantically fled into the lounge. Shen Mingchen sobbed as he crawled forward, mumbling something incoherently. The mission progress rapidly increased, 80%, 81%, 82%. I stepped on Shen Mingchen. Amid his violent struggles, I unceremoniously cut open his skin and dug out what I wanted with my bare hands. After much effort, I finally dug it out. It was truly not easy. I lowered my head to look at Shen Mingchen. He lay collapsed on the ground. Blood and sweat mingled together, long since breathless. Trash, I thought, when the original owner was treated like this. No one gave her anesthesia either. The regret value stopped at 95%. I turned to look at the lounge. There was still one inside. Sister, I called out softly, dragging my numb leg as I limped to the lounge door and knocked politely. Thump, thump, thump. Ah, don't kill me, please, don't kill me. Su Anan's terrified screams came from inside the door. Actually, I knew she hadn't locked it, because I had already broken the lock long ago, but I still knocked on the door patiently, listening with great interest to the shouts, please for help, and the faint thuds of heads hitting the floor from inside. The regret value on my head also fluctuated repeatedly with each knock on the door. In just a moment, Su Anan's heart-wrenching sobs echoed through the room, utterly broken and despairing. Only when the task progress bar reached 100% did I gently push the door open, treating her just as I had treated Shen Mingchen. They owe Su Tong. I want them to pay back double. Set the fire, with the help of the gasoline I had prepared. The flames quickly spread, a perfectly good engagement banquet. I single-handedly turned it into a funeral pyre. I straddled the windowsill, gazing at the stars in the night sky, squeezing out a few dry tears. The system was puzzled. Sister Qin, what are you doing? I answered with a straight face. Didn't you say the essence of death literature is crying? They can't cry anymore. But then again, who cares who's crying? It let out a few awkward chuckles. You really are the most efficient host I've ever seen, I asked. In that case, can I have a reward? What would you like? It asked. I whispered a wish in a very soft voice. Finally, I leaped down from the windowsill. Upon returning home, I eagerly looked up that novel. The ending of the book has already been altered. At the conclusion of the story, Su Tong wakes up in an unfamiliar body. A new memory suddenly appears in her mind, vague yet real. Somehow, a phrase inexplicably echoed in her ears. Please live well with a healthy body. She looked at her clean and tidy self in the mirror. Suddenly, tears welled up in my eyes. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. After crossing over, I was bound to the female protagonist system. The system gave me 3 identity choices. The first identity, the woman of a domineering CEO. The domineering CEO married me for special reasons, but he doesn't love me. I can sleep in every day, have endless money to spend, don't need to serve my in-laws, and travel the world. Second identity, a Yandra woman. The Yandra is controlling, but he's coldly handsome and wealthy, giving me everything he has. give me endless money, but don't allow me to go to work or leave the house. And don't let me have any friends of the opposite sex. The third identity, the woman of a poor man, though poor. He is handsome, and even with only 3 yuan in his pocket, he buys me a big steamed bun to eat, a simple and ordinary life, a partner who works from dawn till dusk, gentle and considerate, with looks that are pleasing to the eye. He is very good to me, but the only shortcoming is poverty. After reading the options the system gave me, I didn't hesitate to choose to be the woman of a domineering CEO. What a joke. He just has a lot of money and little to do. Love, it's worthless. Even if it were given to me, I wouldn't want it. 3 months since I crossed over to this place, I've never met the domineering CEO, and the system has vanished without a trace, living alone in this enormous villa, surrounded by a crowd of servants attending to my every need. A top-tier chef prepares nutritious meals from different cuisines for me every day, and the home gym and entertainment facilities allow me to stay indoors without ever needing to go out, in my leisure time. I summon the heads of luxury brands to bring their latest collections for me to choose from. When boredom strikes, I fly to various destinations around the world, unconcerned about money flowing away like water, because, after all, it's not my money being spent, just as I was marveling at how I had finally chosen the right identity. The domineering CEO returned. The domineering CEO is named Chiyu, pretty much as I imagined, unsmiling, stern-faced, but with sharp, well-defined features and an outstanding presence. He truly has a handsome appearance. I glanced at him and then averted my gaze. After all, I'm good-looking enough to be a star myself. When it comes to looks, who doesn't have them? Chiyu sat on the sofa and beckoned me over, saying, "Wan Lan Lan, come here." I paused for a moment, pointed at myself, and silently questioned him with my expression. Chiyu frowned slightly. "Don't make me repeat myself." Hesitantly, I shuffled my feet and slowly moved over, standing stiffly in front of him. He grabbed me abruptly, and before I could react, I found myself sitting in his lap. Chiyu held my delicate face with one hand and kissed me. I was completely stunned. Didn't they say the domineering CEO didn't love me? Then what is this all about? I didn't push him away, half resisting and half yielding, enjoying it while making sounds. Chiyu, however, said, "Woman, is kissing me so boring that you can't even stay focused? After all, he is my sugar daddy. How dare I offend him?" So, I started to argue back. "Don't you not love me?" Chiyu's face darkened. "What are you deluding yourself about? That I could give you love? Get rid of that filthy thought of yours." Then, he forcefully pushed me away and strode out of the villa. Watching him walk away, I cursed loudly, "You lunatic. If it weren't for your money, I'd definitely punch you, you big idiot." After some thought, I couldn't help but angrily mutter, "Narcissist, and your kissing skills are absolutely terrible." Once in the car, Chiyu couldn't resist checking the surveillance footage, only to see me cursing him. His face darkened completely, but I was completely unaware, silently praying that he wouldn't come back. Soon, Chiyu brought back a pregnant woman. Pregnant woman is just an unpleasant term expressing my displeasure. In reality, AI is very beautiful, appearing gentle and fragile, with no hint of aggression. If that were truly the case, I wouldn't be so displeased, but she's a total pro at this game. I don't care if she steals people. I'm afraid she'll steal my money, Chiyu said in a tone that sounded like he was informing me. AI is pregnant, so you should give in to her more and even give up the master bedroom. My first reaction was, "Is this your child?" Chiyu's face flushed red. AI spoke with a hint of shame. "No, you and I are just good friends." "Oh, I understand." Chiyu liked her, but she liked and married another man. Now that Amy has argued with her own man, she remembered Chiyu as a backup. In an instant, I thought of many possibilities. But what does this have to do with me? Why should I be the one to host your gossip? Today it's giving up the master bedroom. Tomorrow it's giving up clothes and jewelry. And the day after that, won't it be giving up money? I thought for a moment. Chi Lu, I don't think this is right. The master bedroom has traces of our affection, and Ai's husband will definitely mind. My words undoubtedly struck a nerve with both of them. One turned pale with anger, the other flushed with embarrassment. Finally, I took the liberty of deciding, the largest and most beautiful guest room should be left for Amy. In fact, every guest room is the same size and has the same layout. Chi Lu rarely came back to this villa, so he didn't know. Hearing my words, he seemed to think I was some kind of extraordinary, perfect wife. Amy lowered her head, lost in thought. as if planning something. Anyway, she just settled in like that. Ever since Amy moved in, Chiyu started coming to the villa every day. My peaceful life was just disrupted by them. In the middle of the night, I was sleeping soundly. A faint, whimpering cry woke me up. I pushed open the door. And there was Chi Lu openly holding Ai and I, comforting her. Ai and I said tearfully, Alu, he came to beg me to go home. He said he would never look for other women again. That last time was just an accident. What should I do? Chi Yu looked at her with heartache. Ai and I, what is so good about him? Is he really the only one for you? I can take care of you too, and the child in your belly. Her tears fell even more heavily. You don't understand. I know I've let down your love. But I truly love him. She looked up and saw me, so, she then asked, even if I'm willing to be with you, you're already married now, with Ruan Lanlan. Her gaze held a subtle challenge as she looked at me. Chi Lu straightforwardly gave her reassurance. I'll divorce her, give her 10 million, and send her abroad. Damn, 10 million. This man is truly heartless. If I hadn't been spending money like water over the past 3 months, 10 million would indeed be a huge sum for me. But only after spending it did I realize that 10 million is actually not much at all. Chiyu's wicked heart, this stingy man. I'm truly at a loss for words. No, I need to plan ahead. I hid back in my room and didn't hear Chiyu's words. 1 million a day. When Ai's husband, Shenziji, appeared at my villa, my widened eyes couldn't even begin to express my shock. Isn't this guy the second identity choice the system gave me? The Yandera male, Shenzijan, standing in front of me was Amy. And when she saw Shenzijan coming to find her, her eyes lit up with joy. Shenzijan's eyes were fixed in this direction, and to outsiders, it seemed as if he was looking at Ai and I, but I know, this Yandera man is looking at me. His gaze is full of possessiveness, as if he wants to claim me as his own. Shenzijan curled his lips into a smile. I love you, so much that I'm willing to do anything for you, including permanently eliminating anyone who stands in your way. Ai and I was moved to tears and rushed over excitedly to hug him. He remained unmoved, not returning the embrace. I took half a step back in fright, because I knew Shenzijan's words were directed at me. I felt a bit of lingering fear. The system had sent me to this world, and I knew nothing, unaware of what story lay ahead. Amy gazed deeply at Shenziji. Ji, I knew it. You love me. I'll go back with you, and I'll never be willful again. Shenziji, with an inscrutable expression, pushed Amy away. No, you did well this time. You let me see her. Shenziji's, her, is me. But Amy automatically assumed it was Chi Lu. She spoke with a hint of nervousness, but Shenzijin misunderstood. Hang, don't overthink it. You and I are just friends. He's already married. Chi Yu's expression remained dark from start to finish. You promised me you would get a divorce. You said you wanted to come back to me. What are you doing now? Ai and I couldn't bear to let go of Chi Yu's tenderness, nor could she bring herself to give up on Shenzijin. She bit her lip. You, please respect me, don't slander me. In this lifetime, I have only ever loved one man. Hang, Chi Yu's face was deathly pale. He was no longer sure if his obsession with Ai and I stemmed from unwillingness to accept defeat. Shenzijin used the excuse that Ai and I was pregnant to stay overnight. That night, I slept restlessly, constantly feeling as though something was about to happen. Sure enough, the unexpected really did happen. Chi Yu never sleeps with me in the master bedroom. The master bedroom is always mine to enjoy alone. I turned over, only to touch a scorching heat source. I exclaimed, "Who is it, Chi Yu?" He spoke with dissatisfaction. "It seems Chi Yu often comes to sleep with you." It was Shenzijin's voice. I quickly pulled the blanket over my body. Just kidding, I'm dressed quite lightly. Okay. Shenzijin also pulled the blanket aside and pressed down on me. Answer me, Lan Lan. His breath was right there, and I could smell the scent on him, which made me a bit entranced. In a daze, I blurted out, "No, I slept alone." He gave a satisfied light bite on my earlobe. "Good blue. Have you had enough fun? If you've had enough, it's time to come back to me." A foreign object pressed against me. I felt a bit flustered, not understanding his meaning, and pushed hard against his body. He grabbed both my hands with one hand and pinned them against the headboard. Lan Lan, I've had enough of the days without you by my side. I'm sorry, but this time, I'm going to keep you by my side forever. No matter how much you threaten me, I will never let you leave again. I trembled with anger and shouted, "Shenziheng, you bastard. Let go of me right now," he whispered with a maddening laugh. Bastard. Isn't that what you like the most? Don't you love it when I'm a bastard to you in bed? These shameful words made my face flush even redder. Fortunately, it was nighttime. Fortunately, the lights were off. Later, I couldn't resist the drowsiness and fell into a deep sleep. When I woke up again, Shen Zizheng was not by the bed. If the quilt didn't still carry his scent, I might have thought it was all a dream. He had taken Annie away, leaving Chi Yu alone, unwilling to accept it. As for me, I worry day in and day out, cooped up in the villa all day, feeling anxious. I chose a clear and sunny day to step outside, but then I ran into Shen Zizheng. The look in his eyes was unmistakably that of someone lying in wait, utterly triumphant at having caught me. I turned around and wanted to leave, but he walked toward the traffic, which was dense and moving faster and faster. A car was driving in his direction, yet he stood still, neither dodging nor avoiding it, terrified. I rushed over without a second thought and dragged him back. He took the opportunity to embrace me, laughing easily. See, even if it happened again, you would still risk danger and injury to save me without a second thought. He was someone who had never been loved, never been firmly chosen. In that moment, how deeply his heart was moved, no one could know, only Shen Zizhen himself knew. He clearly knew. He was utterly captivated, completely in love with her. I shouted angrily, "Idiot! You big idiot, are you trying to get yourself killed?" Shen Zizhen, however, said, "Yes, I don't want my life. I want you. I want everything about you. Your person, your heart, all of you. I want you to belong only to me, to be mine alone." He pleaded like a pitiful little puppy. "Lon Lon, please don't leave me again. Don't abandon me. Come back to me, okay? I really love you so much. I love you to the point of madness. Just thinking about that guy Chi Yu being able to have you makes me want to destroy him." I took half a step back in fright, which only seemed to provoke him further. He grabbed me frantically. "Don't be so cold to me, it scares me. Anyone else can treat me this way, but not you, Lon Lon. You can't do this to me. Don't force me to use despicable means to keep you by my side." He kissed me wildly, leaving me breathless and weak in the legs. My body half collapsed against him. He bore my weight, excitement gleaming in his eyes. "Lon Lon, I love you madly." When I woke again, I was at Shen Zizhen's home. Everything here is arranged in the style I love, vintage and grand. Shen Zizhen watched as I slowly woke up, kissed my forehead, and said, "Lon Lon, welcome back to our home. Everything here is exactly as it was when you left." I was puzzled by all of this, only to find myself shackled to the bed. Shen Zizhen then said, "Lon Lon, it won't hurt if you don't struggle." Indeed, the shackles were wrapped in a layer of silk, making them incredibly soft. "Shen Zizhi, have you lost your mind? This is illegal." Shen Zizhi rubbed his face against mine. "Yes, I've lost my mind. Every day without you, I feel like I'm going insane." Looking at the obsessive man before me, I couldn't help but sigh and advise, "I won't leave. Now, please unlock these shackles for me." He hesitated, not quite believing me. I raised an eyebrow. "I'm just a weak woman. Are you afraid I'll run away? Besides, this is uncomfortable for me." Hearing that, he no longer hesitated and unlocked the shackles for me. I flexed my wrists and suggested, "How about you show me around the house? I mainly want to scout the place, so it's easier to escape when he's not around." Shen Zizhen nodded, not refusing me. "As long as it's not my decision to leave him, he won't refuse me." If I wanted the stars in the sky, perhaps he would pluck them for me. I never expected to see Annie again in a small storage room. It was like one of those damp, sunless rooms in the urban villages of big cities, a tiny space, yet fully equipped, and this was where Annie lived, without sunlight. Her skin was a bloodless, deathly pale. It threw the child aside, ignoring the crying infant. If not for that crying, I wouldn't have come to this warehouse, nor would I have met Annie. Shen Zizheng, worried that I might misunderstand and be upset, explained, "Lon Lon, don't get the wrong idea. I never actually registered a marriage with Annie. What we got was a fake certificate. The child isn't mine either. I found someone else to consummate the marriage with her, and that's how the child came to be." He continued on his own. "I never let her set foot in our house either. She's always lived here, from the very beginning. It's been this way. I'm not lying to you. You can ask her yourself." Annie was already acting a bit off. "Ah, Hang, you finally came to see me. You have to believe me. I have no idea how that child came about. Someone must have framed me. No, he's not my child." Shen Ziheng looked at her with disgust. "You are no longer necessary. What does this mean? Is Shen Zizha going to kill her?" I quickly stopped him. Why don't you just let her go? He raised an eyebrow. Let her go where? I pursed my lips in thought. Qi Lu. Shen Zizheng seemed satisfied with the answer, stroking my hair over and over. Good girl. I, however, looked at me with hatred in her eyes. Wan Lan Lan, it's you. You're the one standing between me and Ah Heng. I won't let you off. Shen Zizheng angrily kicked her, and she fell to the ground in a sorry state, looking at him with hurt in her eyes. I envy Annie for returning to Qi Lu, who is generous with his money and not sickly, but Annie has come to hate me. She didn't want to return to Qi Lu's side, even if it meant living in a small, sunless warehouse. She would rather stay by Shen Zizhen's side. Perhaps it's a case of not cherishing what you have once you've obtained it. Annie's return did not bring Qi Lu much joy. With a heart full of guilt, he carefully took care of Annie and her child. Annie deeply despised the child. Believing it was because of this child that Shen Zizheng no longer liked her, she strangled the child to death. Witnessing this scene, Qi Li deeply doubted whether the person before him was still the little girl who wouldn't even dare to step on an ant. Annie laughed happily and wildly. Ayu, this child is dead. Can you help me tell Aheng to come pick me up? Okay. Qiyu knew that Annie's mind was in trouble. He sought out the world's top psychiatrists and psychologists to counsel and treat her. I kept muttering all day long. Qiyu, you have to believe me. Aheng does have feelings for me. He's just been bewitched by that woman outside. As long as that child dies, he will forgive me. I don't know either. I don't understand why that child isn't Aheng's. It must have been swapped. Someone is trying to harm me. That person is Wan Lan Lan. I want her to taste the bitterness of being abandoned too. Qiyu, if you divorce Wan Lan Lan, I will marry you. Qiyu lowered his gaze, offering no response, but in his heart, he already had an answer. Qiyu found me, holding the divorce agreement. He hesitated for a long time without speaking. Impatiently, I snatched the document and saw the terms that made my eyes light up. He had directly given me half of his entire fortune, 50-50. I was a bit suspicious. Do you feel sorry for me? Qi Lu nodded. I know you were imprisoned here by Shen Zizhen, but I used you for AI. Because only when you are by Shen Zizhen's side will AI return to me. This is nothing more than an equivalent exchange between him and me. I remained silent for a long time, running countless plans through my mind, and finally made an outrageous demand, taking away 60% of his wealth. This was the limit of what he could concede. In truth, he had no reason to feel guilty toward me. It was precisely this guilt of his that gave me the leverage to take advantage of him. Everyone is selfish. And I am no exception. In the end, everyone was satisfied with this transaction. I signed the divorce agreement and congratulated Qiyu. Qiyu, congratulations. You can finally marry the one you love. He looked at me in a daze, his heart heavy with discomfort. He couldn't help but wonder if he had made the wrong choice. He immediately denied it again. Impossible. From beginning to end he had only ever loved Annie. He couldn't possibly fall in love with someone else. Qiyu's gaze grew resolute as he thanked me. Thank you, but I won't be inviting you to the wedding banquet. After Qiyu left, Shen Zizhen smiled from the bottom of his heart. He never expected that I would agree to the divorce so quickly. Actually, it's because the money was enough. Even if Qiyu got divorced, I wouldn't want to marry him, because she was still waiting for Shen Zizhen to change his mind. Ai's unwillingness to marry him actually made Qiyu breathe a sigh of relief. He watched Ai, who was sometimes normal and sometimes insane, feeling utterly exhausted. Over time, he became unwilling to return to the villa. In the villa, traces of me were gradually erased by Ai. Qiyu watched as the items I had arranged were thrown out one by one, and quietly had someone collect them. Annie felt the chill of Qiu's silent treatment. She couldn't believe that the man who had always professed his love for her, the man she had been waiting for, had now abandoned her too. She rushed to Qiu's company, causing a scene like a madwoman. The incident was sensationalized by the media, causing Qiu's company's stock price to plummet dramatically. Qiu, how could you treat me like this? You said you loved me the most. Have you also been bewitched by that despicable woman, Wan Lan Lan? Qiu, why are you avoiding me? Why won't you come back to me? Qiu, I've thought it through. Let's get married. Once we're married, you'll change your mind. Then I'll give you a son to inherit everything you have. Qiu sent someone to tie Ai up and bring her back to the villa. Annie had now calmed down. Ayu, I'm sorry. I lost control. I'm sorry. I should just leave. I don't want to hurt you anymore. Qiu's heart softened again. Holding Annie, he couldn't help but feel restless. During the spring festival, Qiu went on a business trip. Perhaps he was genuinely busy, or perhaps he was just finding an excuse to avoid Annie. In short, he gave Annie a chance. Annie came to Shinziji's place. She squatted at the door for a long time, finally waiting for Shinziji, who was about to leave, and me, who was seeing him off. I watched her attire and every move, completely imitating me. Shinziji's anger simmered beneath the surface. He couldn't stand anyone imitating my mannerisms, my everything. Annie, mimicking my usual tone of voice, spoke to Shinziji with ease. Ah Hang, long time no see, have you missed me? Ah Hang. Happy New Year, Ah Hang, could you hold me? I'm so cold, Shinzijing said heartlessly. Don't put on a show in front of me with that face of yours. Yet these words gave Annie an idea. She immediately went to get plastic surgery. Now she looks about 70% like me, but her face is stiff when she moves. After that, she underwent several more surgeries, until her face looked natural, bearing a 90% resemblance to me. She returned to the country with her new face. Chiyu didn't recognize her, because she looked so much like me, and it had been too long since he last saw me. Annie was already adept at imitating everything about me. Chiyu, why haven't you been looking for me lately? Chiyu mistook Annie for me. Lon Lon, I regret divorcing you a bit. If I said I was willing to start over with you, would you give me a chance? Annie's face darkened, but she quickly composed herself. Why, aren't you the one who loves Annie the most? After a moment of silence, Chiyu said, my feelings for her were just an obsession, not love. I'm sorry to you. If you're willing to give me another chance, I will definitely make you happy. Annie's eyes turned fierce. Chiyu, you don't deserve happiness. You only deserve to go to hell. He was the final straw that broke her. Chiyu's words drove Annie into a frenzy. She thought she would take my place. Annie had unwittingly broken into the villa, drugged me, and tied me up. My mouth was stuffed with cotton and sealed with tape. My body was curled up like a caterpillar, and I had no strength left because of the drugs. The space around me was filled with clothes. I immediately realized this was my wardrobe. Before I could continue speculating, Shinzijin returned. Annie stepped forward and warmly embraced him, saying, Shinzijin, with my tone and behavior, mixed with her own affection. This left Shinziji bewildered for a moment. He was somewhat suspicious but did not show it. Shinziji tested many details, and I matched them all one by one. I couldn't help but admire how well she had done her homework. Yet, it is precisely this meticulous and flawless memory that makes Shinzijing even more certain Annie is not me. The madness in Shinzijing's eyes is almost overflowing, but Annie remains completely unaware. She only feels that she has finally reclaimed her ahang, her face flushed with a rosy hue. Shinzijin, shall we have a child? He pushed her away in resistance and turned to leave. After some investigation, he learned the whole truth. By then, I was already half-starved to death. I had no chance to send me away, because Shinzijing had already sent people to keep her under strict surveillance that very day. Shinzijing gripped Annie's neck. Speak, where is she? Where is the real Wan Lan Lan? I was terrified. She couldn't understand how she had been recognized when everything had seemed foolproof. I tried to defend herself. Hang, I am Wan Lan Lan. You're Wan Lan Lan. Shinziji sneered mockingly. My Lan Lan. I would never mistake her. A counterfeit can only be a counterfeit. Don't think that just because you wear Lanlan's face, you can become her. Upon hearing this, I roared angrily. Why does Wan Lan Lan have so much? She stole your love, and then she stole Chiyu's love. In the beginning, both of you belonged to me, but in the end, she took everything. Shinziji threw her to the ground. Don't compare me to Chiyu. He's not worthy. From the very beginning, I had no interest in you. Pretending to marry you was only to fulfill Lanlan's wish of marrying Chiyu. But at that time, Chiyu couldn't see his own heart clearly. He thought he loved you. So for Lan Lan, I married you, so that Lan Lan could fulfill her wish. But I regret it. I am not that generous. I cannot bear to see Lan Lan being with someone else. I must win her back. I must have her every moment. She can only belong to me alone, from beginning to end. You were just a tool. Not only did you fail to win my love, but even Chi Lu has come to recognize his own heart. You are too filthy, too malicious. I wailed hysterically. How am I filthy and malicious? There is no one in the world kinder than me. I wouldn't even harm an ant. Filthy and malicious. It's you. It's all of you. Shinzijing stepped on Annie's hand. Where is she? I'll ask one last time. If you don't tell me, I'll kill you. Annie did not want to die. She cherished her life dearly. I was rescued by Shinziji, and the family doctor was already prepared. At this moment, I completely let myself faint. No need to worry about whether AI and I would kill me with a single slash. Shenzishi arranged for a plastic surgeon to give AI and I a new face. This time, she gave Annie the face of Qi Lu. After all, there are differences between male and female bone structures, so it ended up being about 80% similar. Shenzishi wanted to discuss Qi Lu. In his view, the two had already made a deal, yet the other party broke the rules. Trying to reclaim the traded item, this is against the rules. Did Qi Yu not recognize AI and I? He didn't believe it. This guy must be putting on an act, going with the flow, otherwise, how could Annie have the ability to enter the villa? It was all because Qi Lu was causing trouble behind the scenes. When Annie returned to Qi Lu's side wearing his face, he knew he had failed. He looked at Annie with disgust. Why are you so useless? I gave you the chance, and you still couldn't seize it. Annie taunted, Wan Lanlan can live just fine with or without you, actually. She's even better off with Shenzishi. It seems you really can't compare to Shenzishi. When Qi Lu loved her, he would take thoughtful care of her, and after confirming that he no longer loved her, he revealed his ruthless nature once more. He slapped Annie hard across the face. If it weren't for you, this wretched woman, Lanlan wouldn't have divorced me. Annie laughed loudly. Wasn't it you who personally took the divorce papers to Wan Lanlan to get the divorce? Moreover, you only got divorced to marry a lowly woman like me. In the end, I still didn't want to marry you, because, in my heart, you are no match for Shenzishi. In every way, you fall short. Ai's words made Qi Lu even more irritable. He was like someone with a tendency toward domestic violence, punching and kicking her. Ai and I showed no tolerance or compromise whatsoever. In her view, Qi Lu would not kill her. Life is greater than dignity, and dignity is greater than everything else. Since life was not threatened, she had to uphold her dignity. In this love, she had lost, not to Wan Lanlan, but because she had loved the wrong two people. Ai and I closed her eyes, savoring the physical pain to ease the torment in her heart. For her, Qi Yu's domestic violence had become the very motivation for her to persist. Qi Yu, too, showed no restraint in venting all his frustrations on Ai and I. Ai and I became pregnant multiple times, only to suffer repeated miscarriages. In the end, she was left infertile. Instead, she was grateful because she didn't want her child to suffer. After Qi Yu abused Ai and I for the nth time, he unexpectedly died himself. The cause of death was poisoning, and resuscitation efforts were ineffective. Ai and I had suffered multiple injuries from domestic violence and miscarriages, and she took the opportunity to collect drugs that were otherwise inaccessible. A certain dose was stolen and then all of it was fed to Qi Yu. Qi Yu died. And Ai and I cried freely and easily. Ah, you, I trusted you so much. Although I don't love you, I truly considered you my only one, yet you betrayed me, betrayed the feelings between us. It doesn't matter anymore, you're dead, and everything is over. From now on, I will only remember the good in you. I forgive you for all the bad things you did to me. Ah, you, if there is a next life, I still want to meet you, and then send you off one more time. Ai and I was not sent to prison because she was mentally ill and therefore not guilty, but she was locked up in a mental hospital. I know nothing about Qi Yu and Ai and I. Shenzishi would never tell me. He only keeps me imprisoned here, even when watching TV. He restricts me from paying too much attention to any male characters, including those in anime. Even when I developed a great interest in something or a certain field, he would still stop me. Lan, you've been reading for 10 minutes. In these 10 minutes, you haven't spoken to me at all. I frowned, but he immediately smoothed it out for me. Don't frown, it makes me uncomfortable. I was left speechless. Shenzishi continued, why aren't you replying to me? Lan, don't ignore me. It hurts. Can you love me a little more, just a bit more each day? I nodded numbly. He joyfully embraced me. Lan, I don't ask for your love to match mine, only that you love me a little more each day. I don't ask for you to be me every moment, only that your eyes see no one but me. Don't chase after meaningless freedom. Could you focus more on me instead? I nodded woodenly once again. He kissed me again, overjoyed. This wasn't the first time. It happened several times a day. Originally, Shenzishi still had to go out to the office to handle documents. Since the incident where Ai and I kidnapped me, he now works from the villa. Those managers and chairmen come to the villa to meet with Shenzishi for meetings from time to time. During the meeting, Shenzishi didn't forget to have me sit beside him and listen in. In short, He even had someone posted outside the restroom door to wait for me. It was so terrifying that I started planning how to escape. There was only one chance. If I got caught midway, it would be shackles from then on. I never expected that this opportunity would be brought by Annie. Shinziji was the first to know about Annie's escape from the hospital. He was afraid that Annie would come here to harm me, so he could only watch over me nervously and cautiously. But unexpectedly, AI and I still found an opportunity. Shinzijin thought that it was too unsafe to stay in the country and planned to move abroad. Everything was going smoothly, however. AI and I hired foreign assassins to enter the country and assassinate Shinzijin. Annie was not short of money. She had taken all of Chiyu's assets before his death. It was precisely because of this money that she now had the means to assassinate Shinziji. Shinziji had not anticipated that Annie would spend a fortune to hire an assassin. His bodyguards were no match, and the mercenaries had not yet arrived. He shielded me as we retreated step by step, keeping me from harm. Yet he himself was shot in the arm and the left side of his abdomen, bleeding profusely. I watched in fear and trepidation. In truth, if he hadn't been protecting me, he could have easily dodged both bullets. I was overwhelmed with guilt, because I still think of running away, escaping from his suffocating love. He is good, it's just that I don't like this suffocating love. My thoughts had only wandered for a brief moment, and there was no one left to protect Shinzijin by his side. While the gun in his hand had run out of bullets, but he still stubbornly protected me. Lon, actually, I transferred all my assets into your name a long time ago. The password is your birthday. I really love you so much, but someone like me has too many enemies. If it wasn't Annie today, there would be others tomorrow. So, I made preparations for you early on. Your future will definitely be a happy one. If possible, I truly wish I could stay by your side forever. I know you've always wanted to escape from me. This is your chance, Lon, go. I looked at the unmanned helicopter behind me. As long as I stepped onto that helicopter, I could escape, yet, my footsteps felt unusually heavy. If it weren't a life or death moment, I would have turned and run immediately. I watched Shinzijin shielding me, paving the way for my escape, yet I couldn't take that step no matter what. Shinzijin's gaze towards me was filled with starlight. He was happy, I could see it, but I didn't understand what there was to be happy about right now. He smiled and said, "You always say you don't love me, but when it really mattered, you never once abandoned me, Lon. What I regret most is agreeing to send you to Chiyu's side. Fortunately, in the end, you came back to me, but this time, I'm afraid we really have to part ways. Hurry, Lon. I watched Annie gradually approaching and shook my head at Shinzijin. I can't do this to you. I can't leave you behind. If we go together. Shinzijin kissed my forehead. Only if I stay here can you leave safely. At this moment, Annie is already close. No one can leave now. Annie has already had plastic surgery to restore her own face, but after multiple procedures, she can never return to how she was before. Her face stiffened, expressionless. You will all die here today. No one can leave. Shinzijin ignored Annie, looking at me with deep affection. Lon. I gave you a chance to leave just now, but you didn't take it. From now on, you won't have another chance. I glanced over. Nonsense. Annie fired a shot into the air, drawing our attention. I'm not here to watch you two show off your affection. Shinzijin, I'm giving you one more chance. As long as you are willing to marry me, I can pretend nothing ever happened, and you can live on. Annie, her obsession runs too deep. She has lost too much because of Shinziji and Chiyu, so she must have this. Shinziji's blood kept flowing, and by now his face was deathly pale, staggering even as he stood. I barely managed to support him, bearing his weight, but Annie pointed the gun at me. However, Lon, you must disappear. Shinzijin's pupils contracted slightly, and he wrapped his arms around me, turning his back to Annie. Bang, a single shot. Shinzija was not injured, and neither was I. It was Annie. She had been shot. She looked down at the hole in her chest, slowly collapsed to the ground, and unwillingly closed her eyes. The group of assassins also fell one by one, shot down. I looked over. It was Shinzijin's mercenaries who had arrived. Seeing that he was safe, Shinzijin relaxed and smiled. The family doctor hurried over to bandage his wound and stop the bleeding. Before he passed out, I playfully whispered in his ear, "Bye-bye." He probably fainted from anger because of me. I knew he wouldn't die, so I quickly ran away. The world is so big, and there's so much money out there. He'll never find me. Goodbye, Shinziji. After hearing the two stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.